Hello and welcome to the 4th Annual New Jersey Youth Transitions Conference. My name is April DiPietro and I work for the Camden County Care Management Organization as the Community Resource Director. We are thrilled to have you here today with us. We're excited to introduce our wonderful presenters. Today we have Katie, Samantha, Sarah, Peter Burgos, Eric, and Elvis, and we're going to do a panel presentation with a bunch of Q&A. So you get to hear from different perspectives from Children's System of Care, the Family Support Organization, a parent, and 2 self-advocates. So let's give a warm welcome to our presenters. I'm also going to be the moderator of today's panel presentation. So we are going to jump right in. My first question goes out to Katie Meyers from the CMO, Care Management Organization. When should you start the DDD application process if services don't start until 21?
Hello. Okay, so this is a question we get a lot, and it can be a little bit confusing because Children's System of Care does go to 21 eligibility-wise. However, you should begin the application and submit it when you turn 18. So when youth, child, whoever, when they turn 18, if you're applying for adult DDD, you want to submit the application at the 18th birthday is what you typically say. If you have been approved for IDD eligibility through Perform Care, through the Children's System of Care at 18, there's actually a short application that you can do that is on the website because we've already, essentially proved, to one threshold that you're eligible. So you want to do the short application. You don't have to do the full application. If you have not submitted that, then you do the long application. However, if you're 18, you submit the application for adult DDD and you're still involved with Children's System of Care and you're approved, Children's System of Care will honor that application and you will become IDD eligible for services through Perform Care as well. So it's a little bit of a weird situation that 18 to 21 services don't begin until 21 for adult DDD. However, we do want you applying at 18 because depending on how many applications there are, and I know right now we've had communication with adult DDD that they had an influx in the last few months of applications, and so they're a little bit behind. So I always say get it done at 18, and that way, you have plenty of time to answer any questions, submit anything that's needed, all of that good stuff.
Thank you for that answer. Our second question goes to Samantha from the Family Support Organization. What type of supports does your agency provide to families during the transition process?
Hi, everyone. Thank you. It's really hard to quantify what a family support organization can do because there is just so much. And if there's a question that comes through that we haven't dealt with before, we figure out how to answer that in the best way that we can. But here in Camden County, we provide direct support to parents and caregivers of youth and young adults in the intellectual and developmental disability community, as well as a number of other communities as well. If your child has medical challenges, behavioral challenges, substance use, juvenile justice impacted. So we really try to help families that are dealing with all different types of situations. So we support families in a number of ways during the transition process, whether that's navigating the system processes, maybe it's filling out applications, discussing different options with them, and showing them maybe, different paths, what they would look like, and then discussing through the best one that would fit their family's needs. We also facilitate a number of support groups. We have caregiver support groups where caregivers can meet with one another who are maybe going through similar situations, or could be on totally different ends of a situation, and you may be able to make a connection and find support more naturally that way. For youth, we do have a group for teens and young adults, and they're able to find that community and shared interests with one another in that group setting. So we also offer a lot of different educational opportunities for parents and caregivers to help promote that self-advocacy so that they can learn more about the systems, how to navigate them, and then become that empowered self-advocate for themselves and their family.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. The next question goes to Eric. What helped you the most during your transition planning?
Hi everyone, thank you very much, April. So what I have here is what helped me at the most during my transition planning is that how to be independent, like cooking food, checking routines, and following my daily routine schedule. Who helped me the most is that my parents, my mentor, youth partnership, and school taught me how to be independent. Pete, my mentor and peer, my youth coach, taught me the most of being independent.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Okay, our next question is going to go to Sarah. As a parent who is currently supporting their child in transition right now, what would you say has been the most challenging thing to navigate? And how about the least challenging?
You and Dad.
Okay. Hi, thank you for having me. So I have two very different children who are both going through transition. One is 17 and one will be 19 at the end of the month. So I actually have two different answers. For my younger one, the most challenging thing has been knowing when to advocate, when to have my child shadow me and learn how to advocate, and when to let him advocate on his own. For my older one, the most challenging thing has been navigating the system and coordinating all the services, making time to get to appointments, have providers in the home, juggling some of the challenges that come along with just being overwhelmed, and that's for either my child or my family, and then juggling that with also working outside the home. The least challenging part was making the decision to do it, because I work at the FSO with Sam, and it is not easy to be a parent, period. So when you have extra needs or different needs that are different from what maybe people outside of your home are struggling with or learning how to navigate differently, it can be challenging. But the decision to do it was the least challenging.
Thank you for that. We had Elvis on. Is Elvis still with us? Okay. I'll circle back. Okay. Back to Katie. Okay. How do you keep the transition from Children's System of Care to DDD as seamless as possible?
So I think the most important thing is communication with your team. Making sure that, I'm going to say this over and over, and I say it to families all the time, making sure that adult application is in at 18, right? It stops any delays. It gives you 4 years essentially to update any information that needs to be updated, get any communication from adult DDD, gives everybody a chance to have the information looked at. It gives time for delays. That's the number one thing that I always recommend to families. The other piece to that too is that once you go from Children's System of Care to adult DDD, you're able to choose a service coordination agency, and there's a lot of them. And so I think the important thing is, talking with your care manager or your support team. You can look up all of the agencies online. You can interview agencies. You can see, what they offer. You can talk to employees from there. There's a lot that you can do to try and choose the right agency for you. And you're able to submit, I believe it's up to 60 days, but I know at least 30 days before you're able to submit the form that you choose a service coordination agency. So there can be a bit of an overlap between adult EDD and children's system of care, you know, one ending and one taking over, so that it can really, really help the team have a nice seamless transition that is most important for, you know, the person that everyone is trying to help, to make sure that there's no gap in service, that nothing falls through, and that you do have a team kind of on both sides working together to make sure that it goes as seamless as possible.
Excellent. Thank you for that. We are going to go to Elvis. What do you think makes the transition from childhood to young adult so difficult?
Hey everyone, my name is Elvis, and I think what makes this transition so difficult is because more times often than not, what we're taught in school really doesn't prepare us for the real world. So it feels like when we become an adult, we have to learn so much on our own. I mean, thank God I had the guidance of my mom as well as programs such as Youth Partnership and the Bridge, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't have that. So more times than not, when it comes to applying for college, getting a job and whatnot, more times than not, we're either forced to kind of figure things out on our own, or we have to look stuff up on the internet, but then not really know exactly how to do things correctly. So basically, the reason it's so difficult is because we're not really given a guidebook most times, and not everybody has an opportunity to have a community that is willing to help you get to that place.
Excellent. Thank you for that answer, sir. We're going to go to Samantha with the FSO. In your experience working with caregivers and parents, what would you say is the biggest challenge for families in transition?
Yeah, I think we've all really touched on it already, is navigating through all of it. There's, I think, so much of it that it can become very overwhelming for one parent, or like Elvis just touched on, you know, being a youth or young adult who doesn't have support. You know, which is why I think the most challenging piece is going through it without that support. Um, so you know, I've seen parents, you know, go through all of the applications and they think they're finally done, but then, you know, they get denied or they get kicked back, that they need more documentation and proof. So, you know, just having that support, someone there to just help you comb through it all and make sure that you have, you know, all your boxes checked, um, is going to be most beneficial. But I think that's the most challenging piece, is if you don't have that support.
Thank you for that answer. We're going to jump over to Sarah. As a parent, how do you decide on the appropriate balance of self-advocacy and parental guidance for your young adult?
So I think that you have to be really honest with yourself. First, you have to see your child as a young adult and not the baby that you held 18 years ago. Like, I think I have a unique perspective, so I appreciate you having me here, because I am a provider, but the way I got to be a provider was by being a parent. So, you know, they're not the same. They're not the baby or the child before. You have to talk with your young adult. Like, I think communication is very important, because I have talked with both of my children, and what I think is important to them until I talk to them is really not that important. You're like, I have been doing all of these things that I thought were really important to try and help you, and you mean that that's not what it was? Like, that's the reality. So I think talking with your young adult is really important, and saying, like, listen, I think that this might be important. What is important to you? Just like I've been in the other meetings before this, and there was a great story about a youth who wanted to be a lawyer because he wanted to wear a suit and he wanted to go into an office building, and we're like, oh, well, we can absolutely design something individual for you. So, and then the inner work of just being a parent, of my child is not really a child, he or she is a young adult, and they have hopes and dreams, and finding out what they are, and then talking to all the people on your team, school personnel, care managers from CMO. I've had lots of care managers who have been very helpful. Providers who provide services to your children, asking your friends for input, asking your family for input. You know, asking, you know, your partner, just getting perspective taking, because I'll be honest, as a mom, I have a big mama bear. I think that it's important that you have that flame in you for your child, but you also need to know that you reserve it for 1% of things. And the 99% is when you teach your child how to do things. So your child's not done developing as well. And I think you need to keep that in mind. If you think about the fact that when I was 18, was not the same person I was at 28, was not the same person I was at 38. So it's going to be fluid and it's going to keep growing. But mainly, I think it's talking with your child, finding out what their hopes and dreams are and how you can help them accomplish it, and pulling all those pieces together. Because ultimately, you have to think long-term as a parent, not tomorrow, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 25 years from now. And that needs to be your goalpost. And then deciding when you need to step back. And that's, I think, the most important thing, because they need to go on their own.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Let's jump over to Eric. Eric, if you could wave a wand and change any part of the transition process, what would it be and why?
If I was waving the wand, I would change to be better at organizing, because I do get lost at organizing important thoughts and also knowing what to do. Keeping a planner and checking every couple of days helps me keep on track, even when I'm on college.
Excellent. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Let's go back over to Katie. How do you keep the youths and young adults' voice front and center during their transition?
So I think Sarah, hit this on the head, right? Like, this is, everything that she had to say. I think one of the challenges that I've seen in that transition period for youth are youth that maybe don't have as much verbal communication as some other young adults. And I think that, parents, they want what's best for their child. There's a big, scary, part of this, that they're going out into the world after they've been, their sole advocate or their biggest cheerleader during this whole time. And so I think it's really, really important to know that, language is something that varies person to person regardless. And that there's always a way to be able to make sure that the youth, that the young adult, it's hard for me to think of some of my kids as adults, but to think, to really, the young adults giving communication and showing us what they need, what they want, and what their goals are every day, at every meeting, every time, you interact with them. And so I think that it's really important to kind of really see what they're showing us, what they're telling us, where they're guiding us, right? And there's just different ways of communicating that. And I think that that's what's really important when you have these meetings and there's so many people involved, and everyone has the best interest, in mind for the young adult. But sometimes, just like what Sarah said, kind of what you want for them is not always what they may want for themselves. And so making sure that there's, a line there, and that we're really making sure that everything that the young adult is showing us, is telling us in all the various ways that they're able to communicate, that is really what's being highlighted and kind of at the front and center of any planning, any meeting. And that's why it's so important, even from a young age, having, youth in these meetings, regardless of what they're able to communicate or how they're able to communicate, and making sure that their voice from, 10, young, but, 10, 11, 12, especially in schools, is really important to be able to get the team to understand how do they communicate, and what are they really telling us. And so I think that's one of the most important factors when you're going in that 18 to 21 range, and making sure that any plans that are being made for them is with them, with their input in mind, and not just, we think this is what would be best for them, which can be very hard for people that have been, parents, caregivers, family, people that have been working with the young adult for a long time. I mean, everyone's intentions are great. It's just really making sure that their voice, however that looks and however that sounds, is always front and center of those plans.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you for that. We appreciate it. Where do I want to go next? Let's go to Miss Sarah. what supports have helped you as a parent through this process?
I was not expecting you to come back so soon.
Here I am.
You don't need it back for a couple weeks. You have a couple
The,
weeks to get it done, okay?
So I would say my FSO colleagues, coworkers, friends, they're great supports. I don't
99
not have
right
done
here
this without them.
for this,
So if you need support, get in touch with your local FSO. I'm sorry, I just have to pitch it because we really love you people. My partner, my children's care managers, providers who have, just reaffirmed, because sometimes you have those times as a parent where you're like, I'm pretty good at staying cool. I'm gonna own it. I am. I had a provider come in and be like, wow, you're so good at that. And I was like, I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you. And it's good because I help other people to do it. So it's good to know that I'm still doing it. But just to providers who can just reaffirm, yeah, what you're going through is really hard. My friends, special needs parent support groups. I just read an article the other day that said parents of children with unique needs have the same stress levels as soldiers in war zones. And I forget, it's just, it can be, everybody has lots of stuff. Nobody has a monopoly on stress or anything like that. But my main supports would be special needs parent support groups, my partner, care managers and providers, and other people going through the same things or who work with other people going through the same things, because they're people who are in the community because they care.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you really want for support.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Let's go to Eric. How did you make the decision to go to college? Did you always know that you wanted to attend college, or did you consider it because of encouragement and having a college option that supported your challenges so you could grow?
Okay, so through my high school transition program, they suggested about me attending RCBC's transition program because I'm more capable of doing more independent on my own. The difference is that college is harder than high school because I'm not being reminded of what assignments that I have to do. And there's more harder because more harder assignments in college because it involves more studying. I feel less be reminded and I make better decisions on my own. I'm now more independent.
Thank you for that, Eric. We appreciate it. I'm going to try to jump over to Elvis. Elvis, are you able to answer a question for us, buddy?
Hey,
Hey, okay.
yes, I am.
All right. Do you think that you had enough support from school and the community to assist with your transition?
Do you want me to go out?
So
You want me to go out?
when I was in high school, I did have an IEP program, so that really did help me be able to basically help out with my college applications as well as get me prepared if I also wanted the option to get a job. So when I talked to my caseworker for my IEP, he was actually able to basically guide me through the process of getting my IEP paperwork basically transitioned over to a 504 for Camden County College. So that IEP program really helped me out in terms of transitioning from high school into college. And yeah, so basically they do this program for any and all students who do an IEP back at Cherry Hill West, and I took advantage of that because I knew I wanted to go to college, and I'm grateful for my IEP team for assisting me with that.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. We're going to jump over to Samantha. What suggestions would you give to a caregiver, parent, or young person beginning to prepare for transition?
Okay. I feel like Sarah really took the words right out of my mouth with her last question. But yeah, utilize all of your support services that you can. So talk to your CMO, your child family team, talk to your FSO if you have FSO. If you don't have FSO, get connected, even if it's just to ask questions. And definitely talk to your IEP team as soon as possible. Make sure you develop a plan, as soon as you possibly can. So if your child's 14 years old and you want to start developing that plan for college or for an 18 to 21 program, or maybe not, maybe a different direction, start as soon as possible with developing your plans, and knowing what you need to do when the time comes. So knowing if you definitely need to apply for DDD, and what the deadline is. Make sure you are keeping all your documents in a safe space, whether you need to do that digitally or create a binder. And these are things that FSO can support with as well. If you have an FSP, a family support partner, they can sit with you and help you organize your documents and maybe connect you with the right people. If you need more support, there's a list of support coordination providers on the New Jersey DCF website. So the information is out there. I think it's just how to find it and who to connect with. So make sure you're connecting with the right people.
Thank you. And the last question that we have before we open it up to questions from the room is to Elvis. Now that you have started your transition journey, is there something that you wish that you knew sooner?
So honestly, what I wish I could have known sooner is that if, let's just say, a professor saw my 504 plan but said that they couldn't accommodate me, I wish I could have known that I can go up to the disability office at my college and let them know about my interaction with the professor and see what can be done to make sure that my reasonable accommodations can be met and whatnot. Thank God this is only one interaction with the professor, but yeah, definitely what I wish I could have known is that I could advocate for myself more, and just because a professor or teacher or whatever says no because they think they can't do the accommodation, I definitely wish I could have known that I could just use my resources to advocate for myself and make a case that no, 504 needs to be implemented in every class, regardless of basically what the professor says, or the professor has a conflict. Something should be able to be worked out.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thank you for that. Those are the questions that we had organized for today's panel, but now we're going to turn it over to the room. If you want to come off of mute and ask a question to one of our panelists, you can feel free to do that. Or if you feel more comfortable, you can type it into the chat box and we'll try to get it answered for you. Don't be shy. I feel like there should be the Jeopardy music playing in the background. I mean, it is possible that you guys just had fantastic answers, that all questions are answered.
They're all chewing for the lunch part of the learn.
Great job, and to the FSO family. What is the best way to reach out and ask questions and get guidance on these services? Who wants to take that one? I feel like it should be me, but I'm not technically a part of the panel today.
April, it's so funny because as you were saying that, I was like, well, I feel like April's a good person to connect with. But also, anybody from the children's system of care. I mean, you know, April and I work very closely together to make sure the Camden County community is informed and educated on all of the services. So if you ever have questions, you can always reach out to either of us. If you're not in our county, we don't really care. We'll still take your questions and answer them and direct you to the people in your county. But definitely find out who those people are in your county, your go-to people, I would say, right, April?
Yes. So for those of you who don't know, New Jersey's Children's System of Care has a care management organization, a family support organization, and a children's mobile response in each county across our great state. Some counties, you might have 2 or 3 under one. For example, Cumberland, Gloucester, Salem, they're under one CMO with one FSO, but ideally there is the New Jersey CMO website that you can go to. It will let you know which agencies represent each of the counties across the state and how to reach out with questions. The FSO is a community-based free resource statewide. So regardless of what county you live in, you can go to the DCF website, look up Family Support Organization. It will give you the contact information for your county's FSO. If you are looking to have services through the CMO, it is a single point of access for all of New Jersey. The family would have to call Perform Care. The number is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year. If you email Samantha or myself, and we'll put our emails in the chat box, you can send us an email and say, hey, I attended the conference. Can you give me the website or general information on Perform Care? And we have tools and resources we can easily attach to an email and get that over to you. The services are free and at no cost to the family, and they're voluntary for mental health services in New Jersey. So it's any youth up to the age of 21 with behavioral, mental health, developmental disabilities, and or substance use challenges at no cost to the family. So each county has a community resource director that would be happy to help answer questions, do presentations like Samantha and myself do in Camden County.
I do want to jump in real quick too to say that for youth that are struggling with intellectual developmental disabilities, there are a lot of services that are available through Perform Care that you do not have to be enrolled in the CMO to access. They have a lot of family support services, respite, they do some financial aid for camps, things like that. I'm going to, oh, great, there you go. I'm actually going to do the link. I'm going to try and find the link for the family support services because there's a lot of different things. They have educational advocates. There's all kinds of stuff that if your youth is eligible for IDD services, you do not have to be involved with CMO for certain benefits, which is amazing. And also I'm going to submit as well the link for the 2 applications for the adult DDD. So there's the full application and the short application and who, you know, who's eligible to fill out which one. So I'm actually going to submit that now. And then I think is our information available? Our emails, April?
We can drop them in the chat box, absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to put my email in there. So if anyone has questions, I mean, I'm always willing to answer questions, same as FSO, right? You don't have to be in this. I'm glad to point anyone in the right direction. So if anyone from any county, anywhere, in New Jersey has questions, I'm absolutely willing to help. And that's, I think, one of the great things about Camden County Services is that we're all kind of here to whatever we can do to help. So I'm going to put that in there as well. Yeah, so I just wanted to point that out because I think it's so important for families to know you don't have to be only involved in CMO in order to get access to services. They have a ton of services that you don't have to be involved with us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Katie. That question was actually in the chat. You do have another question for you guys that says, how does CSOC, the Children's System of Care, ensure that the voices of youth with services are included in their own transition planning? And what role does self-advocacy play in this process? Elvis' response prompted this question.
So I can certainly speak a little bit to this. So as far as youth self-advocacy and the youth's voice being front and center in, if you're enrolled in the, CMO, specifically with the Camden CMO, we have, and this isn't the same way with every CMO, but in our CMO, we do have specific care managers that are have some additional training, have been through some additional specialization to work with youth and families that are IDD eligible through Perform Care. And so part of that specialization they have is knowing how to make sure that the youth's voice is front and center, being, advocating for them to be available at every meeting, school meetings, team meetings, whatever meetings they're having for whatever reason, and making sure that they're there, they're present, their voice is heard, regardless of how that may look. And so that's something that we do that I think is a little bit more specialized and can help a little bit more. But I think the first step to that is really truly making sure that youth are present at any meeting that's happening. Someone said something, there was like a tagline for that. But anyway, yeah, I think making sure that they're present, that's first and foremost, regardless of, where they are, if they have autism, where they are on the spectrum, or where they are with their communication. I think it's important they are present and there, and that something about their goals, regardless of age as well, is always present in the planning process.
Can I just piggyback off of that really quick too? Not so much within CSOC because Katie, you answered that perfectly. But I just want to remind everybody to, during the IEP process, that your child should be present in the decision making and the goals that are being put into their plan, their individualized education plan or program. It's for them for a reason. So, they should be a part of that discussion as well.
And I did find, so we work pretty closely with the supervisors and that work with IDD youth. We're pretty in close contact with the other CMOs and their supervisors as well. And so we had an email going back and forth recently, and one of the supervisors, this was a question about youth that are in out of home treatment, and making sure that that their voice is front and center. And so the one supervisor, sent an email saying, no meetings about me without me. And I absolutely love that. I hadn't heard that before. And I was like, I love this. I want to put this everywhere, right? And I think that's so important. Again, especially when we're working with youth that are young. I think sometimes it's like, well, they don't really know, or they're not really sure. So we know what's best. And it's like, no, regardless of age, regardless of ability of communication, I think no meetings about me without me. It's like, I love it. It's like my new tagline.
Yeah, we say that often over here at FSL.
We should put it on a shirt, Katie.
We should. Yeah. I would buy one. Yes, please.
Right. Get Lisa on it.
100%. Any other questions for our panelists from the CMO and the FSO? All right. Well, this was fantastic. Back onto my moderator hat. So thank you to our panelists for sharing your insights and expertise. Let's give a warm welcome to our presenters today. Thank you, and we really appreciate your time. Thank you to everyone in the audience for joining us and being a part of this session. And we hope that you learned something valuable and feel inspired on your own hero's journey.